Runaway bride, desperate exit. The veil clung to her face as she ran. Eloise Alden's designer heels clacked violently against the marble floor of the Alden courthouse, each step echoing like a countdown. Her breath came in sharp gasps, laced with panic and humiliation. Somewhere behind her, voices shouted. Her mother's shrill cries, her fiancé's outraged baritone, the ever-present click of paparazzi cameras capturing the scandal of the year. Her wedding was supposed to be the society event of the season, Alden wealth merging with the Ashford name. But the moment she saw the text on Derek's phone, last night was unforgettable. I wish you weren't marrying her. Everything inside her collapsed. She wasn't just heartbroken. She was done. Miss, are you all right? A voice asked as she shoved to the front doors, veil fluttering behind her like a ghost. Eloise ignored him, ripping the veil from her head and tossing it onto the courthouse steps. Her updo unraveled in the wind, strands of golden-brown hair whipping into her eyes. The cold bit at her bare shoulders, but the numbness in her chest hurt more. She reached the edge of the sidewalk and looked wildly for an escape. Any escape. A stream of black town cars lined the curb, but all were either full or clearly waiting for guests still inside. She stepped into the street just as a silver sedan slowed to a stop at the crosswalk. The driver leaned out of the window. You look like you just left a wedding or ran from one. Eloise blinked. He had dark eyes, intense and calm, like he'd already read her story in her face. I need to get out of here, she said breathlessly. He raised an eyebrow. Like, drive away and never come back kind of out of here? Yes. He hesitated for a split second, then reached across and opened the passenger door. Get in. She didn't ask who he was. She didn't care. She threw herself into the seat, slammed the door shut, and exhaled for the first time in hours. The man, tall, composed, mid-30s maybe, glanced at her again. Anywhere specific? Just drive. Away from here. Away from them. He nodded, pulled the car into traffic, and they sped off. Behind them, the Alden courthouse faded into the rearview mirror, and with it, Eloise's carefully constructed, fake-perfect life. They drove in silence for a long time, the hum of the engine lulling her spiraling thoughts. Eloise clutched her knees to her chest, wedding dress bunched awkwardly in the passenger seat. She noticed his hands on the wheel, strong, steady. He drove like he knew the city inside out, weaving effortlessly through back streets and avoiding main roads. He was quiet, but not cold, present. Finally, he glanced sideways. You want to talk about it? Not really. Fair enough. Another few beats of silence passed before she asked, Do you always pick up runaway brides? Only on Thursdays. That made her laugh, a dry, shocked sound that felt foreign on her tongue. She shook her head. You don't even know me. I don't have to. You needed help. I was there. She looked at him fully for the first time. Strong jaw, clean-shaven, deep-set, unreadable eyes. A driver's uniform, crisp and plain. A man used to being invisible, perhaps, but he didn't feel invisible at all. There was something magnetic about him, unassuming yet controlled, like there was more beneath the surface. What's your name? She asked. Leon. Leon? Just Leon. She narrowed her eyes but let it go. I'm Eloise. Eloise Alden. I figured. The veil kind of gave you away. She smirked. And the screaming photographers didn't? He smiled. Barely. But it was real. That too. Eventually, Leon pulled into a quiet lot near a park on the city's outskirts. Trees swayed in the wind, and the lake reflected a dull winter sky. He turned off the ignition. This safe enough for you to think? Eloise nodded slowly, suddenly overwhelmed. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her dress was torn at the hem, her lipstick smudged, and her life, her entire future, felt like it had been torn down in a matter of hours. I can't go back, she whispered. Leon didn't interrupt. My family will kill me, not literally, but you know, socially. They'll make sure no one speaks to me. No jobs, no reputation. I'll be erased. She stared ahead, eyes distant. I wish I could just start over, she said. Change my name. Become someone else. Vanish. Leon sat back, thoughtful. What if you did? He said simply. She turned to him. What? What if you started over? Changed everything? She laughed bitterly. What, just like that? He tilted his head. Why not? You need to disappear. I need something too. Which is... He paused. My grandmother's dying. She has one final request, that I marry before she passes. I told her I was already seeing someone. Eloise blinked. You lied to your grandmother? He shrugged. I wasn't planning on her rushing into a will rewrite. She studied him carefully. So you're asking me to marry you? Right now? For convenience. Why not? You need a way out. I need a wife for a few months. You're serious? As serious as a man who just gave a stranger a ride in a wedding dress. Her heart thundered. This is insane. Leon's lips twitched. Sometimes that's exactly what works. The marriage contract. Eloise stood in front of the bathroom mirror of a cheap motel room, staring at her reflection. Her once stunning bridal gown was wrinkled and grimy, a sad ghost of its designer glory. She had washed off the makeup, but the vulnerability in her eyes remained. She still couldn't believe what she'd agreed to. Leon sat at the small table near the window, scribbling something in a notebook. The room was modest, beige walls, peeling wallpaper, buzzing neon light outside, but it was quiet, safe. It had been his idea to stop here overnight before finalizing their arrangement. He glanced at her as she stepped out. Feel better? No, she said truthfully, wrapping a borrowed hoodie around herself. But less like I'm about to fall apart. That's something. Eloise crossed the room and sat across from him. The silence between them was thick, but not uncomfortable. So, you really want to go through with this? She asked, half hoping he'd laugh it off and call it a joke. Leon looked up at her. Serious. Yes. Why me? You need an exit. I need a placeholder. Placeholder? She repeated, raising a brow. He offered a dry smile. My grandmother's very traditional. She believes a man without a wife isn't stable enough to inherit the family estate. Eloise narrowed her eyes. So your family's rich? Leon paused. You could say that. She leaned in. You're not just a driver, are you? He shrugged. That's another conversation. You said your name was Leon. It is. But not just Leon. No. Silence again. Eloise processed his evasiveness. He wasn't lying, just selectively truthful. All right, she said finally. Let's make this clear. Leon nodded and tore a page from his notebook. I drafted a contract. Eloise blinked. You drafted a contract? Fake marriage needs real terms, he said coolly, pushing the paper across the table. She picked it up. Her eyes scanned over his neat handwriting. Marriage of convenience agreement. Leon Walker and Eloise Alden. No romantic obligations. Duration, 6 months minimum. Public appearances required, 2 per month. No legal entanglements. Prenuptial agreement mandatory. Termination clause. Either party can exit after 6 months. Walker, she read aloud. So that's your last name? He said nothing. She stared at him. You really are hiding something. Leon leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. If you agree to marriage, I'll tell you everything. But only after. Why not before? Because if I tell you now, you'll say no. That sent a chill down her spine. But not from fear. From curiosity. I want one addition, she said, grabbing a pen. Leon watched as she scribbled. No falling in love. She slid the paper back. This is just business. He glanced at the added line, then nodded. Deal. The next morning, they were standing in front of a justice of the peace. Eloise wore a simple white sundress Leon had bought at a 24-hour store. Her hair was in a messy bun, no veil, no diamonds, no choir. Just her, Leon, and a witness from the coffee shop across the street. She kept waiting for her heart to pound, for her conscience to scream. But it didn't. Strangely, this felt more honest than the lavish ceremony she fled the day before. Do you, Eloise Alden, take Leon Walker to be your lawful husband? She swallowed hard. I do. And do you, Leon Walker, take Eloise Alden to be your lawful wife? Leon's eyes never left hers. I do. You may now kiss. No need. Eloise cut in quickly. Paperwork is enough. The officiant blinked. Okay. Congratulations. And just like that, it was done. Leon drove them back into the city under a pale afternoon sun. Eloise clutched the marriage certificate in her lap. Still tried to make sense of it. So what now? She asked. We go home. Home. He glanced at her. To my place. It's safer. You'll stay there until this is over. Eloise frowned. Where do you live? The garage behind the company building. He gave her a look. Okay. Joking. Mostly. They passed a river, winding through upscale neighborhoods she rarely visited. But when they reached a long private road leading to a gated estate, her stomach dropped. This is your place? Leon didn't respond. He simply input a code, and the gates swung open. The mansion that loomed ahead was something out of a magazine. Stone walls, ivy-covered towers, large bay windows gleaming in the sunlight. Dozens of security cameras lined the property. A gardener waved as they passed. Eloise's jaw dropped. You really are rich. Leon parked by the fountain and turned off the engine. I wasn't lying. Just waiting. She turned to face him. Leon Walker. Why'd I know that name? He exhaled slowly. Because you've heard of the Walker Group. Real estate. Tech media. Her eyes widened. The Walkers? You're that Walker? He nodded. Grandson of Dorian Walker. Only surviving heir. Estranged. Disowned. Until 2 weeks ago, when my grandmother called me home. Eloise stared at him like he'd grown horns. I married a billionaire heir pretending to be a driver? He gave a small smirk. Told you I'd explain after. She laughed. A short, breathless sound somewhere between disbelief and hysteria. I married into more scandal. Leon opened his door. Welcome home, Mrs. Walker. The billionaire's bride. Eloise stood at the top of the grand staircase, her fingers brushing against a velvet banister as she took in the opulence of Leon's estate. Marble floors stretched out in every direction, flanked by ornate chandeliers, priceless art, and hushed maids who moved as though trained not to breathe too loudly. It was a different world, a gilded cage compared to the social stage she'd grown up on. And yet, something about this mansion felt colder, sharper, more secretive. Leon's world didn't sparkle. It glinted, like a knife under candlelight. You good, his voice called from below. She looked down to see him standing in the foyer, dressed sharply in a navy suit. She hadn't gotten used to this version of him yet. The confident air and luxury tailoring. Gone was the driver in a cap and rolled sleeves. Leon Walker, billionaire, was crisp, distant, and somehow lonelier. Define good, she replied, slowly descending the steps. Leon met her halfway. His eyes skimmed over her attire, an elegant cream dress selected by the estate stylist team. It hugged her figure, modest but regal. You look the part, he said. The part of what? She asked. Trophy wife. The part of someone they can't question. Eloise tried not to let his words sting. After all, that was the agreement. Appearances. Contracts. No emotions. Still. She followed him wordlessly as they exited the mansion and slid into the back of a sleek black limousine. Another driver, not Leon, took the wheel. Where are we going again? She asked, adjusting the strap on her clutch. My grandmother's charity gala. Every member of the Walker family is expected to attend. And I'm your alibi? You're my wife, he said plainly. They need to see that. Eloise exhaled. Right. Let's hope I can fake affection convincingly. Leon glanced at her. If you smile like that, they'll think you're plotting my death. She rolled her eyes, but a laugh escaped her lips anyway. The Walker Foundation Gala was held at the Crown Plaza Ballroom, an extravagant, glass-walled venue glowing with golden light and lined with media crews. As their limo pulled up to the red carpet, a frenzy of flashes and voices exploded around them. Leon Walker. Mr. Walker. Who's your wife? Is that Eloise Alden? She disappeared after the wedding scandal. Eloise froze, stomach turning. Leon reached out and took her hand. Smile. She looked at him. You hate the spotlight. I hate liars more. We're not lying. We're married. The door opened. Cameras clicked. Reporters shouted. And Leon stepped out like royalty, helping Eloise in the car with a grace that stunned her. He placed a hand at the small of her back as they walked. To the world, they looked picture perfect, confident, elegant, in love. Inside the ballroom, crystal chandeliers spilled golden light over rows of VIP tables. Politicians, socialites, and corporate titans mingled with champagne glasses in hand. A string quartet played in the corner. Eloise spotted several people she recognized, including him, Derek Ashford, her ex-fiancé, the man who betrayed her, humiliated her, and walked away with barely a scratch. He turned and froze when he saw her. Eloise's pulse quickened. Leon leaned in. Ignore him. He's going to come over here. Let him. And sure enough, Derek did. Eloise, he said, astonished. You're alive? Leon gave a dry chuckle. She's more than alive. She's married. Derek blinked, looking between them. To you? Eloise lifted her chin. Leon Walker. My husband. Derek's jaw twitched. I see. So this is what you ran away for? Trading scandal for money? Eloise smiled sweetly. No, I traded betrayal for something better. Integrity. Leon's arm tightened around her waist, his voice low. Careful, Ashford. You're talking to a Walker now. The warning was clear. Derek scoffed but backed away, muttering curses under his breath as he slithered into the crowd. Eloise exhaled shakily. Thanks, she said. Leon turned toward her. You didn't need me. You handled him better than I would have. I didn't think seeing him again would hurt, she admitted. But it does. Leon's gaze softened. Sometimes, healing doesn't mean not hurting. It just means you keep walking anyway. The evening blurred into toasts, handshakes, polite smiles, and shallow conversations. By the time they slipped away to the balcony for air, Eloise's face ached from fake laughter. I forgot how exhausting rich people can be, she said, leaning over the railing. You never forget. You just pretend better. Eloise turned to him. Do you ever get tired of pretending? All the time. She studied him, sensing the sadness behind his cool demeanor. So why come back now? Why the marriage? Why me? He looked out over the city skyline, silent for a moment. Because my grandmother's dying. Because I made promises I never thought I'd have to keep. Because this house, this name, none of it feels like home anymore. But you, Eloise. He looked at her then, eyes unreadable. You're the first thing in a long time that feels real. Eloise's breath caught. She wanted to tell him that it was all pretend, that this was just an agreement, a facade. But her heart thudded in betrayal of that logic. Because deep down, she didn't want to be fake anymore. Not after tonight. The ex-fiancé returns. 3 days after the gala, the internet exploded. Runaway bride, now billionaire's wife. Leon Walker's secret marriage shocks high society. From scandal to heiress, Eloise Alden's wild redemption arc. Eloise scrolled through headline after headline, fingers trembling. Comments ranged from cruel speculations to wild admiration. Some called her a gold digger, others a survivor. But most couldn't stop talking about the mysterious driver-turned-husband twist. If only they knew how backward that really was. She tossed her phone onto the bed and rubbed her temples. The media storm was worse than she expected. Leon entered their shared suite, holding 2 mugs. Coffee or chamomile? She blinked. You made tea? I had it made, he corrected with a dry smirk. I don't trust myself with the kitchen. That would be dangerous. She accepted the cup, their fingers brushing. You're surprisingly considerate for someone who blackmailed me into marrying them. He raised an eyebrow. You call that blackmail? Okay, dramatic survival pact, then. He chuckled and took a seat on the velvet settee across from her. You're handling this better than most would. You mean the storm of judgment from millions of strangers who think they know me? She asked, then sighed. I grew up in the Alden household. This is just Tuesday. Leon tilted his head, studying her. You don't miss them? She hesitated. Not even a little. There was a pause. and something unspoken filled the space between them, a familiarity that hadn't existed a week ago. She wasn't sure what to call it. Connection, perhaps. Just as she opened her mouth to ask him about his grandmother's condition, the door swung open. "Leon," came a cool female voice. "You have got to be kidding me." Eloise turned sharply to see a stunning woman in a black, fitted dress strutting into the room like she owned it. High heels, expensive perfume, red lips. Leon didn't move. "Hello, Vanessa." Vanessa Caldwell. The name clicked instantly. Leon's ex-fiancée, heiress to the Caldwell fortune. The woman society once pegged as the future Mrs. Walker. Of course she's beautiful, Eloise thought bitterly. Vanessa's eyes raked over Eloise, stopping at her bare ring finger. She's not even wearing the ring. Leon stood. "She doesn't need a ring to validate our marriage." Vanessa scoffed. "Is this what you've been doing while dodging calls? Playing house with the ex-scandal of the Alden family?" Eloise bristled. "Excuse me." Leon stepped between them, calm but firm. "This isn't your business, Vanessa." Vanessa smirked. "Oh, but it is." "See, Leon, your grandmother called me. She wanted me to convince you to come back to the fold. She's not exactly sold on your sudden bride." Eloise stiffened. Leon's voice darkened. "My grandmother is the reason I'm home, and Eloise is my wife. That's not changing." Vanessa's smile sharpened. "We'll see about that." She turned to Eloise. "You're pretty, I'll give you that. But you don't belong here. This world will eat you alive." Eloise stood slowly, every inch of her screaming pride. "I've been eaten before, Vanessa. I know how to bite back." Vanessa blinked, caught off guard. Leon gave a small smile. "You should go." Without another word, Vanessa left, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. Later that evening, Eloise sat on the balcony wrapped in a thick robe, watching the garden lights flicker below. The air was cool, her tea long gone cold. She heard the door slide open behind her. Leon joined her, holding a folder. "She won't be back." "Do you believe that?" He exhaled. "No." She looked at him. "She said your grandmother isn't convinced." "She will be," he replied. "We just have to make it look real." Eloise tensed. "So we keep pretending?" "Yes." A beat passed. "And how far are we supposed to go with this pretending?" she asked softly. He looked at her then, truly looked, "As far as it takes." Their eyes locked, the tension between them thick as smoke. Something was shifting. Neither of them wanted to admit it, but the line between arrangement and reality was beginning to blur. "You never told me what happened between you and Vanessa," she said. Leon looked away. "She loved the version of me that fit her world. I walked away the moment I realized I hated who I was becoming. And now," he turned back to her, his voice low, "now I'm trying to figure out who I actually want to be. And for some reason, it's easier when you're around." Eloise's heart twisted. She didn't want to feel anything, but she was falling for the man she married to escape. Dinner with the matriarch. Eloise stood in front of the floor-length mirror, smoothing the emerald silk dress over her hips for the third time. The stylist had chosen it carefully. Modest neckline, tasteful jewelry, not too flashy, not too plain. Just elegant enough to impress Leon's family, and more importantly, his grandmother. She turned as Leon entered the room, buttoning the cuffs of his tailored charcoal shirt. He paused when he saw her. "You look," his voice softened, "like trouble, in a good way." She smiled, but her nerves refused to settle. "Do you think she'll believe us?" "She doesn't need to believe it. She just needs to accept it." "Nice motto for marriage," she said dryly. Leon approached, placing his hand gently on the small of her back. "Just be yourself. You'll win her over." "I'm not so sure. I'm the fake wife of the family's black sheep. That's not exactly Grandma's favorite material." "She'll respect you," Leon said firmly. "Because I do." Her heart thudded in a way she didn't like. Not part of the contract, she reminded herself. Not supposed to feel this. The Walker family dining hall was the kind of room that echoed money. Gold-trimmed walls, a hand-painted ceiling mural, a table long enough to seat a small army. At its center sat the matriarch of the dynasty, Iris Walker, a woman of steel and pearls, watching Eloise and Leon approach with the poise of a queen receiving petitioners. Her silver hair was coiled into a perfect chignon. Her eyes were sharp enough to pierce diamonds. "Grandmother," Leon said, inclining his head slightly. "Leon," she replied, "and this must be the wife you didn't bother to tell me about." Eloise stepped forward, extending a hand. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mrs. Walker." Iris looked at the hand, then shook it briefly. "We'll see if the pleasure is mutual." Ouch! Eloise thought, managing to keep her expression polite. They took their seats. Across from them sat two other guests. Leon's cousin Nathaniel, a stiff-lipped venture capitalist with judging eyes, and his wife Camille, whose smile was more venom than charm. "So," Camille said sweetly, "how did you two meet?" "The tabloids say something about a courthouse scandal. Must we start with gossip?" Leon cut in, but Eloise reached for her wine glass and answered coolly. "We met by accident. A strange, perfectly timed accident. One of those moments where everything falls apart, and someone unexpected offers to hold the pieces with you." Nathaniel snorted. "Sounds rehearsed." "Sounds true," Leon replied, giving Eloise a look of quiet gratitude. Iris tapped her fork against her wine glass. "Love or not, this marriage complicates things." Leon raised a brow. "Because I'm married without approval?" "Because I've updated the will," she said sharply. "Your inheritance is contingent on this marriage lasting. 6 months is not enough. The board needs stability. I need assurance." Leon tensed. "You're moving the goalpost." "I'm solidifying a legacy," Iris said. "If your wife can't endure the heat of this house, she doesn't belong in it." Eloise met Iris's gaze head-on. "I'm not here for your money. Or Leon's. I'm here because I made a commitment. Whether or not you approve, I don't break my promises." Silence followed. Even Camille looked stunned. Then, surprisingly, Iris smiled. "Well," she said, "at least you have a spine." After dinner, Leon and Eloise strolled the east garden paths in silence. Fireflies blinked in the hedges. Somewhere, a fountain burbled softly under moonlight. "She's trying to trap you," Eloise said at last. "She's testing me," Leon replied. "It's her way of seeing if I've grown up, or if she can still pull your strings." He didn't argue that. Eloise stopped near a hedge of roses. "What happens if we fake this for too long?" He turned to her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I signed on for 6 months. Now there's no timeline. Are we really going to keep this up forever?" Leon exhaled. "I didn't expect her to change the terms. But she did. And if we keep this going too long, we're going to get caught in the lie." He looked at her then, and the silence stretched thick between them. "I'm not so sure of the lie anymore," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "Lon." Before she could finish, a buzzing came from his phone. He checked it, his expression darkening. "What is it?" He showed her the screen. A photo, blurry but unmistakable. The two of them on the balcony at the gala, standing too close, the ring still absent from her finger. Below it, a message. "Nice fake marriage. Be careful, Walker. I know the truth. V. Vanessa?" Eloise guessed. Leon nodded. "She's not done." Eloise's heart sank. "She's going to destroy this, isn't she?" Leon's jaw tightened. "Not if we stay ahead of her." "But how?" she asked. He looked up, expression unreadable. "We make this real." A second vow. Eloise stared at Leon as if he had just spoken in a foreign language. "A second wedding?" she repeated, half laughing. "You're kidding, right?" Leon didn't smile. "Not this time." They stood in his private office, a sleek space of glass and mahogany overlooking the estate gardens. It had become their quiet zone, where masks had come off, if only briefly. But today, there was no room for comfort. "You want to stage an entire wedding ceremony just to convince your family and Vanessa that this marriage is real?" "Not just my family. The press, the board, the public." Leon's voice was calm, calculated. "Everyone." Eloise folded her arms. I'm already wearing the Walker name. Isn't that enough? Not when Vanessa's threatening to expose everything, he replied. She's already feeding the tabloid suspicion. If the wrong people believe we're faking this marriage, it could tank my position in the company and cost my grandmother her legacy. She hesitated. So this is still about the inheritance? Leon's expression flickered. It's about protecting everything I've built since coming back. Everything we've built together. Eloise turned toward the window, processing. You said you didn't care about legacy, she murmured. I care about what legacy can protect, he said. People, you, this life. The word struck deeper than she wanted to admit, but she still wasn't convinced. What exactly would this second wedding involve? She asked cautiously. A real venue, real dress, real photos, a guest list filled with reporters, society insiders, and my grandmother. And what about us? She asked, turning back to him. Will we kiss? Share vows? Dance? Pretend to be in love? Leon stepped forward, closing the space between them. Would it really be pretending? Her breath caught. Again, she hated that he could make her feel like this. With just a look, a word, a pause too long. Don't blur the lines, she whispered. They're already blurred, he replied. 2 weeks later, Eloise stood in front of the grand mirror in the bridal suite of the Celeste Garden Pavilion, the most exclusive wedding venue in the city. Her second dress was nothing like the first. It was sleek, elegant, designed to hug her body and sparkle like champagne under candlelight. No veils, no glittery tiaras, just a quiet strength and grace in ivory silk. She adjusted the diamond studs on her ears. Leon had them delivered that morning, along with a handwritten note. No one's watching in this moment. Just you and me. She pressed the note to her chest before slipping it into her clutch. A knock came at the door. The wedding planner peeked in. Ready, Mrs. Walker? Mrs. Walker. The word still felt borrowed. Eloise nodded. Let's do this. The venue was filled with gold-trimmed chairs, white roses, and the soft hum of classical music. Drones hovered in the air, capturing live footage. On one side, reporters scribbled details. On the other, executives and relatives watched with guarded smiles. Leon stood at the altar, dark suit tailored to perfection, hands folded calmly in front of him. But his eyes searched the aisle for her with unspoken urgency. Then the music shifted. Eloise appeared at the entrance, sunlight casting a halo around her figure. Gasps and camera flashes erupted. Leon didn't breathe. As she walked toward him, her heart pounded louder than the music. Each step was a beat, each glance a memory. Of the courthouse, of the rooftop, of the night. He said she was the first thing that felt real. When she reached him, he leaned closer. You're stunning, he whispered. You don't look so bad yourself. The crowd settled as the officiant began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered today to witness the reaffirmation of vows between Leon and Eloise Walker. Eloise wasn't listening. She was watching Leon. The steady jaw, the flicker of nerves behind his composure, the way his thumb traced small circles against her hand. Just once, just for her. Leon, do you reaffirm your vows to Eloise? He looked into her eyes. I do, and I choose her. Again and again. And Eloise, do you? I do, she said before the question was finished. The crowd chuckled lightly. The officiant smiled. Then you may now kiss your wife. Eloise expected a polite kiss, a press of lips, a stage gesture. But Leon cupped her face, drew her close, and kissed her like the world had melted away. And in that moment, it had. The guests rose in applause. Shutters clicked. Social media exploded. But Eloise couldn't feel any of it, because for one terrifying second, she wasn't pretending anymore. Later that night, the second reception buzzed with champagne and laughter. Eloise slipped outside to the rose garden, needing air. She leaned against the stone balustrade, eyes lifted to the night sky. Footsteps approached. I figured I'd find you here, Leon said softly. She turned to him. You always do. He handed her a glass of champagne. You were perfect today. It was all a show, right? She asked. Leon hesitated. It started that way. But He took a step closer. I meant every word I said. Eloise looked down at the ring he had placed on her finger. This time, real, heavy, brilliant. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. Neither do I, he whispered. But I want to try. Not for the board. Not for appearances. Just for us. Tears welled in her eyes. And for the first time since they signed that contract, Eloise wanted the lie to become truth. The past he buried. Rain tapped lightly against the window pane as Eloise awoke the next morning, wrapped in the softest silk sheets money could buy. The air was heavy with the scent of jasmine from the estate gardens, but something in her chest felt tense, off-kilter, like a string pulled too tight. She reached for Leon, expecting to find him beside her, but the bed was empty. Cold, downstairs, voices echoed faintly from the study. Low, intense male. Eloise slipped into a robe and padded softly across the polished floors. She paused at the doorway just as she heard a name that froze her heart. Ethan Kane. Shut the door, Leon snapped. Now. Eloise stepped back quickly, pressing herself against the wall before she was spotted. You think you can bear that forever? Another voice said, deeper, gravelly, probably Nathaniel's. I buried him for a reason. Nathaniel's laugh was dark. So did we. But graves don't stay closed forever, cousin. There was silence. Then, if Eloise finds out, it'll destroy everything. Her breath caught. Leon was hiding something from her. An hour later, he found her in the greenhouse, among orchids and climbing roses. She was watering plants she didn't know the names of, just to calm her shaking hands. He didn't speak right away, just stood in the doorway, watching her. You disappeared this morning, she said, not looking at him. I had a meeting with Nathaniel? Leon's face shifted slightly. You were listening, only enough to hear a name that sounded like a threat. He exhaled and crossed the space between them. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. He hesitated. Eloise met his gaze. We stood in front of hundreds of people yesterday. Leon, you kissed me like it meant something. And maybe it did, but if you keep hiding things, real things, I'll never know what to trust. Leon's jaw tightened. I didn't want to drag you into that part of my life. What part? The part one tried to leave behind. He sat down on the bench beside her, resting his elbows on his knees. Before I left home, before I became the walker they wanted, I went by a different name. A fake one. Ethan Kane. It was the identity I used when I was running, when I worked as a driver, when I wanted no one to find me. Eloise blinked. So that's how you disappeared so completely. Leon nodded. I built an entirely different life. No money, no connections. Just a job, and a name no one could tie to the walkers. Why? She asked. Because I hated who I was becoming. The man Vanessa wanted. The one motive for business and backstabbing deals. I wanted out. She was silent for a long moment. And now Ethan Kane has resurfaced, he said bitterly. Somehow, someone is using my old identity, signing into hotel rooms, wiring money, even forging deals. If the media gets hold of it, it'll look like I've been leading a double life. One lie could unravel the marriage, the board position, everything. Eloise let the words settle. Why didn't you just tell me? She finally asked. Because it's not just my past. There are people involved who could hurt you if they thought you knew too much. She looked at him. You don't get to decide what danger I can handle. He reached for her hand. I'm trying to protect you. And I'm trying to be your partner, Leon. But I can't help if I'm left in the dark. They sat there in silence, the rain softening to mist beyond the glass walls of the greenhouse. Finally, he spoke. There's someone I need to see. Someone who knows where the Ethan Kane trail leads. But I won't go alone. You want me with you? I need you with me. Eloise nodded slowly. Then we go together. That evening, they drove themselves, no staff, no entourage, into the old part of the city. The narrow streets were lined with flickering street lamps and ancient brownstones. Leon parked the car discreetly, tension tightening every muscle in his jaw. You sure this is safe? She asked. No, he replied, but it's necessary. They entered a small, forgotten bookstore wedged between a pawn shop and a deli. The door creaked as they stepped inside. A woman in her 60s, thin and sharp-eyed, looked up from behind the counter. "Ethan," she said softly. Leon flinched. Eloise's heart panned. So this was someone from his secret life. The woman's gaze slid to Eloise. "This her? The reason you buried the name?" Leon nodded. "We're not here for games, Mira. Someone's using the Ethan Kane identity. I need to know who." Mira frowned. "Then you should have never come back. Because whoever's doing this knows you better than anyone." Leon stiffened. "Who?" She walked to a dusty cabinet, retrieved a manila envelope, and handed it over. Inside were photos, grainy surveillance shots, hotel check-ins, ATM withdrawals. One image showed a man walking into a building with his head down, hoodie up. Leon's breath caught. "No." Eloise leaned in. "What?" Leon swallowed hard. "That's Ezra, my half-brother." Mira nodded. "Looks like he's using your ghost to stir the living. Brothers in shadows." The ride back from the bookstore was silent. Eloise watched Leon from the passenger seat. His hands clenched tightly on the steering wheel, his jaw locked, his eyes dark with memories. He hadn't said a word since seeing the photo. His half-brother, Ezra Walker, alive, moving through the world wearing Leon's old ghost like a stolen skin. She finally broke the silence. "You never told me you had a brother." Leon didn't take his eyes off the road. "Because he's not someone I wanted to remember. Still, he's family." He gave a bitter laugh. "Ezra was always a shadow. Born of an affair, hidden by my father, tolerated by my grandmother. He grew up inside the gates, but never belonged. Not really. That must have been hard." "For him," Leon agreed. "But he didn't just resent the family. He hated me because I had the name, the legitimacy, the inheritance." Eloise frowned. "Is that why he disappeared?" "He didn't disappear," Leon said. "He was exiled." She blinked. "What?" Leon hesitated, as though deciding whether to speak the next words. "There was an incident 3 years ago. A forged signature on an offshore account, siphoning Walker funds. Ezra claimed it was my father's doing, that he was a scapegoat. No one believed him." "Did you believe him?" "I didn't want to," Leon admitted quietly. "So I stayed silent." Eloise sat with that, the weight of it. And now, Leon pulled into the estate's driveway, slowing the car to a crawl. Now he's wearing Ethan Kane like armor. I don't know if he's trying to destroy me or send a message. They parked in silence, but the tension followed them all the way into the house. The next morning, Leon received a package at the estate gate. No return address, no note, just a sleek black box containing a flash drive and a single printed photograph. Eloise stared at it with him. The photo showed her, standing in the rose garden, alone, vulnerable. "Someone's watching us," she whispered. Leon's expression turned cold. Ezra's getting bolder. He plugged in the flash drive. A single video file. A shaky recording began. Hidden camera angle. A parking garage. Voices echoed, distorted. Leon's voice. "You're playing with fire, Ezra. Walk away." Ezra's voice. "You left me nothing but ash. Let's see what burns first, your empire or your little wife." Eloise inhaled sharply. "He's threatening me." Leon stood abruptly, fury rising behind his calm. "This ends now." That evening, a knock came on Eloise's door. She opened it to find Leon, not the controlled businessman or fake husband, but someone raw, stripped of layers. "I need to tell you something else," he said. "Something I should have told you when we signed that contract." She stepped aside wordlessly. He sat down, rubbing his temples. Our marriage, is more than just a PR shield now. My grandmother put in another clause after the wedding. If we divorce within 1 year, I lose my voting rights on the Walker board. That includes the rights to protect the family trust. Eloise's breath caught. "So I'm your safeguard?" "At first, yes," he admitted. "But then you became something else." He looked up at her. "You became the only person I trust in a house full of enemies." Her heart twisted at his honesty. I don't know how to be in love, he whispered. I don't even know if I deserve it. But when you walked down that aisle the second time, something changed. And if Ezra wants to take this down, he'll have to come through me. A knock interrupted them. One of the house staff appeared in the doorway, pale. Mr. Walker, your grandmother requests you and Mrs. Walker. Now! In the grand drawing room, Iris Walker sat like a queen facing trial, holding a tablet. Without a word, she handed it to Leon. On screen, a leak video, the parking garage recording, Ezra's voice, Leon's face, Eloise's name, already shared to 2 news outlets. The caption read, Walker family feud turns deadly. Secret brother resurfaces. Eloise's stomach dropped. Leon's face drained of color. Iris looked at them both. So, the sins of the past crawl home at last. Leon spoke first. I'll contain it. I'll find Ezra. You won't need to, Iris said. He's already found us. She slid another photograph across the table. This time, it showed Ezra standing outside Eloise's charity office. Just yesterday. Eloise gasped. I'll move her to a secure location. Leon said quickly. We'll tighten surveillance. Iris's eyes sharpened. Or you can end this circus and file for annulment. The room went silent. Leon stood, voice still. Not happening. Leon. I love her, he said, cutting to the room like thunder. And she's not going anywhere. Eloise blinked. Her heart stopped. Did he just... Iris narrowed her eyes but said nothing more. Leon turned to Eloise, his hand brushing hers. Pack a bag, he whispered. We're leaving tonight. Later, as they drove through the city under cover of night, Eloise turned to him. Did you mean it? Mean what? What you said. That you loved me. He was quiet for a beat. Then, without taking his eyes off the road, he said softly, I don't know how it happened, but yes, I meant every word. The broadcast trap. The cabin Leon chose was nestled deep in the hills outside the city, surrounded by thick forest and fog-covered cliffs. It was a kind of place where the world stopped existing. No paparazzi, no reporters, no family name. Just them, just the silence. But the silence didn't last. On the second night, Eloise found Leon standing outside with his phone clutched tight, his face lit only by the screen. His expression was pale, stricken. What happened? She asked, already dreading the answer. Leon turned the screen to her. It was a live broadcast link. Ezra, standing in front of camera, speaking calmly to a massive online audience. Tonight, he said, I'm telling the truth the Walker family has buried for years. The heir you all admire, the one with the perfect wife and perfect life, it's all a lie. Eloise's blood turned cold. He's been hiding behind a dead name. Ezra continued. And his wife? She was a contract bride. You all bought the fairy tale, but I have the receipts. And tonight, I'll show the world. The stream crackled. A watermark from a major news channel glared in the corner. Leon ended the video abruptly, voice sharp. He's forcing our hand. Eloise backed away. What do we do? He paced. He's baiting us. He wants us to panic. If we respond now, we validate everything. But if we don't, the public believes him anyway. Leon's eyes locked on hers. There's one way to shut this down. Eloise blinked. How? He stepped closer. We go on air. Together. That same night, Leon pulled every string he had left. By morning, a primetime interview slot was confirmed. Live, unedited, global. The Walkers were about to face the fire. Iris tried to cancel it. Nathaniel threatened legal action. Even Camille sent a message telling Eloise to get out while you still have a clean name. But Eloise didn't back down, because if she had to go through fire, she would do it with her head high and her hand in Leon's. The studio was cold, clinical. Cameras rolled. Producers whispered. The host, a polished anchor named Melina Gray, offered them a tight smile before the countdown began. In 3, 2, 1, a red light flicked on. Good evening, Melina began. Tonight, we have with us Leon Walker and his wife, Eloise Walker, joining us in the wake of the explosive claims made by Ezra Walker last night. Let's get right to it. Are you living a lie? Leon sat upright. No. Everything we've done, every step we've taken, has been for family, for protection, and for truth. Ezra is manipulating pieces of a story he doesn't fully understand. But, Melina pressed, you did marry Eloise under unusual circumstances. Correct. Eloise leaned forward. Yes, she said clearly. We married at a courthouse after knowing each other for a short time, because I needed an escape from a family scandal, and he needed someone he could trust. It started with convenience, but it didn't stay that way. Melina raised an eyebrow. Are you saying this is a love match now? Leon took Eloise's hand. I'm saying it became one. Despite the odds, despite the lies, she's my wife. Not by contract, not by convenience, by choice. Eloise nodded. Ezra thinks the truth is some weapon. But real truth? It's what we live now. Melina's tone softened. And the identity, Ethan Kane? Leon didn't flinch. It was a shield. I used it when I ran from a toxic system. I created a life away from the walkers. That doesn't make me a fraud. It makes me human. The cameras zoomed closer. Melina's final question hit hard. And what would you say to Ezra if he's watching? Leon stared into the lens. I would say, come home. But come as a brother, not a destroyer. If there's anything left between us worth saving, stop trying to burn it down. The red light blinked off. The world had heard their side. Now they waited. The aftermath was explosive. Half the media rallied behind Leon and Eloise, celebrating their honesty, praising their bravery. The other half fueled the fire, claiming the interview was damage control, rehearsed spin, another layer of deception. But one thing was clear. Ezra had overplayed his hand. The very next morning, Iris summoned the board and reinstated Leon's full rights. Public sympathy had shifted. The Walker stock stabilized. And Eloise's charity saw a record-breaking day of donations. Still, something lingered. That night, Leon found Eloise watching the rain again, sitting by the window in silence. We survived it, he said softly. Barely, she replied. But yes. He sat beside her. I was scared. She looked at him, surprised. You. He nodded. Not of Ezra, not of the world turning on me. I was scared of losing the only real thing in my life. Eloise's eyes softened. Then you know how I felt the day I married you. He took her hand. It's not over yet. I know, but I want to make one thing clear. What's that? He turned to her fully. This time, I'm asking you for real. Eloise Lane Walker, will you marry me again? No contracts. No family pressure. Just us. Eloise blinked back tears. Are you serious? He pulled out a ring. Not a diamond this time, but a vintage gold band, simple and quiet. I've never been more serious in my life. Her smile was slow, but radiant. Then yes, she whispered. Yes, Leon, I will. Vows without secrets. The sun poured through the garden canopy like warm honey, bathing the world in gold. No velvet aisle, no corporate suits. Just soft music, a few chairs, and the scent of roses drifting through the late morning air. It was a quiet ceremony, nothing like the public performance they'd once staged. This time, Eloise walked alone. No scandal behind her. No shame. Just a soft thump of her heart as she stepped closer to the man who had once offered her a ride, and now offered her forever. Leon stood at the end of the stone path, waiting, not as a CEO, not as a walker, but simply as a man in love. As their eyes locked, it was clear this was no performance. This was a vow between two souls who had walked through fire and still reached for each other. The officiant smiled. Do you, Leon Walker, take Eloise again, but this time with no conditions? Leon looked at her, his voice clear. With no conditions, no secrets, and no escape clauses. I take her fully, as my partner, as my home. The officiant turned to Eloise. And do you, Eloise Lane Walker, take Leon again, this time not to survive but to thrive? Eloise blinked back tears. I take him knowing all his shadows, and choosing him anyway, because love isn't about being unbroken. It's about being brave enough to hold someone while they heal. The rings were exchanged, not gleaming diamonds, but handcrafted gold bands engraved with the date of their first wedding and a new word beneath it. Real. You may kiss the bride, the officiant said. And Leon did, slowly, reverently, like a man finally kissing his truth. Later, as guests mingled in the garden and soft laughter floated through the air, Nathaniel approached him with a grin that was shockingly genuine. "I'll say this, cousin," he said, raising a glass. "You made it further than any of us expected." Leon smirked. "That's because I stopped trying to win the family's approval." "And started building something of your own," Nathaniel replied. He nodded toward Eloise. "You chose well." As he walked away, Eloise turned to Leon. "I almost don't recognize him." Leon shrugged. "Redemption arc. Everyone loves one." She laughed, then lowered her voice. "Speaking of redemption, what about Ezra?" Leon's expression turned serious. "He's in custody. The authorities traced several digital crimes back to him, including identity theft and financial fraud. Mira helped connect the dots." "Will he go to prison?" Leon hesitated. "It's complicated, but he won't be haunting us anymore." A quiet moment passed between them. Peaceful. "Do you think," Eloise asked softly, "we were meant to find each other like this?" Leon smiled. "I think we were both running in opposite directions and crashed into the one thing we needed most." They sat on a bench together under the archway, Eloise resting her head on his shoulder. The breeze tugged at her veil, and somewhere behind them, the sound of music and champagne glasses clinking painted the perfect ending to their chaotic beginning. Epilogue, 1 year later. The foundation gala for the Lane Walker Trust was buzzing, a charity born from both their legacies, hers in advocacy, his in reform, a non-profit dedicated to rehabilitating those cast out by powerful families. It had become the crown jewel of their shared life, proof that love could build something beyond just survival. Eloise stood at the mic, dressed in emerald green, her voice calm and confident. "We started this journey unsure of who we were to each other. I was a scandal. He was a stranger. But in the space between lies and truth, we built something that mattered. Not a fairy tale, but something better, something real." From the crowd, Leon watched her with awe. She had stepped into her power. He had stepped out of the shadows. And together, they had rewritten the story. As the night ended, they escaped the press, slipped into their car. Just like the first day? Leon drove. Eloise glanced over. "You're still my driver, you know." He smirked. "And you're still my best detour." They drove off into the city lights. No more pretending. No more secrets. Just love. The end.